We have now come to the last part of our discussion today or this week. Unemployment and real GDP. Just reminding you again, guys, cyclical unemployment is the fluctuating unemployment over the business cycle. Cyclical unemployment goes up during recession time and decreases during expansion time. As we discovered just now, at full employment, there is no cyclical unemployment. So that must be the case when we are at the business cycle trough. Cyclical unemployment is positive. On the other hand, when we are at the peak of the business cycle, cyclical unemployment is negative. Don't worry, I will clarify this using some figures. Let's just keep reading on first. Recall, guys, from the previous topic, potential GDP is the value of real GDP if our economy is operating at the full employment level. Because the unemployment rate fluctuates around the natural unemployment rate, then real GDP fluctuates around the potential GDP. When the unemployment rate is above the natural rate, our real GDP is going to be below potential GDP. On the other hand, if the unemployment rate is below the natural unemployment rate, our real GDP will be above potential GDP. I know this is all tricky, guys, but again, I'll verify that using a figure. When the economy is at full employment, real GDP equals potential GDP, and we call that situation as no output gap. Real GDP exactly equal to potential GDP. That means there's no output gap between the real and the potential GDP. The real GDP that we actually producing is exactly equal to the GDP that we can potentially produce if we were at the full employment. So we call that situation no output gap. Output gap equals to real GDP minus potential GDP expressed as a percent of potential GDP. When the unemployment rate is above the natural rate, real GDP would be below potential GDP, and the output gap in this case is going to be negative. The other way around, if the unemployment rate is below the natural unemployment rate, real GDP will be above potential GDP, and the output gap in this case is going to be positive. Okay? I know, guys, these last three slides, starting from here, moving to the second slide here, moving to the last one here, is very technical. That is why I will clarify using visualizer. Okay? So how am I going to proceed to help you? First thing first, guys, can I draw this figure that I introduced to you in the previous topic when we were talking about GDP? So here we are talking about time. So we are talking about year, okay? And here we are talking about real GDP, all right? Then I want to put a straight line going up. What does it represent, guys? That represents the potential GDP. So what are we saying here? At that time, if we were operating at full employment, we should be able to produce that much. Okay? So at that times, if we were operating at full employment, we would be able to achieve that potential GDP level, that full employment level. Okay? But you know, guys, our actual real GDP doesn't go up like a straight line. It does fluctuate. Okay? It does fluctuate around the potential GDP. Okay, so this is our actual real GDP. Okay. I'm going to specifically look at 3 points. Point A, point B, and point C. And we'll talk about those 3 points very carefully. If you wish, guys, just say this is the year 1999. B, just say this is the year 2000. Just say C, we are in the year 2001. Okay. Good idea that you draw at the same time as me, guys. So far, so good up to this point. Okay. Let's start with point B. Let's start with point B. See, at point B, at that particular time, what is happening there, guys? We see our real GDP is exactly equal to the potential GDP. Okay, so let's write that. Okay, let me put it here. Let me write it big for you. In the year 2000, Tommy, we're talking about point B. All right. What is happening? Our real GDP exactly equal to what, guys? Our potential GDP. What we are actually producing matches to what we can potentially produce if we were at full employment. What do we call this situation, guys? There's no output gap. Okay? Are we at full employment? Yes. Because we are actually producing GDP that matches our potential GDP, our full employment GDP. Yes, we are at full employment. So what is our actual unemployment? Recall from what I did just now, guys, in the previous part. Our actual unemployment just say 5%. And that 5% is due to the natural factors, structural and frictional, with 0% of cyclical unemployment. See guys, this pretty much summarizes what we discussed in the previous 3 slides of our PowerPoint presentation. If you are okay with point B, now let's do point A and point C. Okay? What is happening at point A? Okay, if you wish to take a screenshot of my discussion of point B, this is now a good time to do so, guys. Now let's talk about point A. I'm sure you can help me out now. Point A, we're talking about the year 1999. We are at point A. So you look at point A there, guys. Our real GDP, is that above or below potential GDP? See, real GDP is there. But potentially we should be there, right? So real GDP is actually below our potential GDP. We refer to what we call negative output gap. Negative output gap. Okay? Or one can say, at point A, we were at recession. So if I can give you some picture, guys, on what is happening with the actual unemployment. At point A, are we at full employment? No, we are not at full employment. Okay, let me give you some figures. Actual unemployment, which is due to natural rate of unemployment, due to structural and frictional factor, plus cyclical unemployment. Okay. See, previously, guys, when we were at full employment, I put 5% as my actual unemployment. That matches the natural rate of unemployment of 5% with 0% of cyclical unemployment. Okay? So here, I would not put 5%. I would put something higher. Just say actual unemployment is 7%, which is due to 5% natural rate of unemployment. And now we have to put 2% cyclical unemployment. Okay? That's what the PowerPoint presentation tried to refer to, guys. Alright? When we were at recession, when real GDP is below potential GDP with a negative output gap, our actual unemployment would be higher than the natural rate of unemployment. When we are at recession time, guys, our cyclical unemployment is a positive figure. We looked at point B. Then we looked at point A. Let me give you the complete picture. How about now we do point C? Okay. Try to help me out here, guys. Okay, Tommy, you're talking about year 2001. We are at point C. I can see that, Tommy, that the real GDP is above potential GDP. Real GDP is above potential GDP. We call that situation positive output gap. What we are actually producing is higher than the potential level. Okay? So as you can see, guys, at point C, are we at recession time or are we at expansion time? What did I hear there? Expansion, Tommy. We are at expansion time. Okay. Can you try to relate this situation, Tommy, to what may be happening with our unemployment figure? Okay, let me try to plug in some number. Our actual unemployment is due to the natural rate. There is structural and frictional, as well as cyclical. Okay. See, guys, when we were at full employment, remember point B, I use 5% figure as our actual unemployment. Okay, assuming that our natural rate of unemployment is at 5%. Okay, so here, what should I do, guys? Should I put a figure that is bigger than 5% or lower than 5%? Remember, we are at the expansion states. We are doing better than our full employment level, than our potential GDP level. So how to reflect that? By using some figures here. Our actual unemployment, what did I hear there, guys? Let's try to put some figure that is below 5%. Okay, suppose I put 3% here. Natural rate of unemployment remain constant at 5%. So that must be the case. Then cyclical unemployment, we have to say minus 2%. During expansion time, when our real GDP is doing better than the potential, our actual unemployment is going to be something like this. The actual unemployment will be lower than the natural rate of unemployment. And you see a situation here that cyclical unemployment is a minus figure, minus 2%. Okay? How to put this in perspective, guys? Minus cyclical unemployment figure, workers working overtime. The economy is doing so well. You are required to work overtime. Some workers who may not yet be ready to join the industry, guys, but because the demand in the economy is hitting, we have a boom in our economy, then they are being called in to work. Okay? I was just trying to give you a bit of perspective to verify a minus cyclical unemployment rate. Okay? I hope my careful explanation using the figure, using the visualizer here, has clarified this last part of our presentation this week. Okay? Take a screenshot. Take a screenshot. Oops. And take a screenshot there. Okay, let us go back to our PPT, and I'm going to finish off the presentation for this week for you. What have been discussed in this topic? Unemployment rate and other labor market indicators. We define them very carefully. We did calculation as well. Okay? We look at a number of figures, number of graphical figures to see the trend and fluctuations in the indicators of labor market performance in Australia. You have good understanding of the different types of unemployment, then full employment and how does it relate to natural rate of unemployment, and last but not least, you have now got a good understanding of the relation between unemployment and real GDP. Okay, I hope I've been systematic enough to take you through step by step so that you have good understanding of this particular topic. And I certainly look forward to see you again in our upcoming topics. Thank you guys. Have fun with your study.